Using the right roles in Football Manager can be crucial to the success of not just your tactic, but your team as a whole. Of course, so that begs the question, which are the best roles to use in game? And don't worry, in today's video, I'm going to aim to answer that, looking at 5 of the strongest roles in Football Manager, whilst also taking a look at some of those common roles that a lot of people use, where I think there's a better alternative right underneath your nose. Of course, so with this whole video, I need to start it by saying the simple fact that any role can be effective in the right system, and every system will call for different roles in use, but there's some that I think will work better than others. Saying that, whether you're using a gegenpress system or a tiki-taka system or any other style, different roles are of course going to benefit those systems. In the same way, you might use certain roles in a 3-man midfield that you wouldn't use in a 2-man midfield and whatnot. So every system is going to have some roles that work and some that don't, but realistically, the 5 I'm going to cover today, I think will absolutely kill it in any system that you go to play in FM. Before we get started though, if you do go on to enjoy this video, make sure you smash the like button for us, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, but the main thing today is I want you guys in the comments to let me know your favourite role in Football Manager. Let me know why, because you might disagree with some of the choices that I've made, and I do think there'll be some today that definitely surprise. And the first role that I'm looking at today is one that I think is amazing in any 2-striker system that you go to play. So if you are a 2-striker system, you'll often see you'll have an advanced forward or maybe a pressing forward alongside, usually the game suggests, a deep line forward. Now that, as a role, if we take a look at Lorenzo Luca as a deep line forward, can do a good job in game. They're usually going to be the big man that kind of holds up the ball, doesn't go as far behind the defence as someone else. They're going to hold it up, drop a little bit deeper, as deep line forward suggests, and then allow play to go on around them. They can be the linchpin basically in your attack. But realistically for me, I don't like this role at all in terms of what it does in game. I don't always think it's super effective. You guys might think so, but for me, if I'm using a deep line forward, or if you guys are using it, I would suggest swapping it out straight away for a target forward and seeing what kind of results you get. Now, of course, there are differences between the deep line forward and the target forward. I'm not saying they will do the exact same thing, but what a lot of people are looking for from a deep line forward, they'll actually get better results out of from a target forward on the support duty. You'll suddenly find that they're able to hold up balls better and create chances for other teammates in a better fashion than a deep line forward would. It just tends to be effective in game, and the reason for that might be 1, tactical, but 2, because of the player profile required for a target forward. As you can imagine, it wants a physical forward, someone that might not be quick, someone that might not break the line, but someone that's tall and strong who can win duels in the air and bring teammates in. And this year in game, those kind of strong, tall, physical profile players tend to be really effective in the match engine. So maybe it's a combination of both, but if you have someone like Lorenzo Luca who has great jumping reach, he's also strong, good finishing ability, heading, everything for a target forward he does at a good level, then he's the kind of player that you want in your team, especially when he's got a trait like comes deep to get the ball and plays with back to goal and does not move into channels as well. That's going to suit him perfectly in that target forward role, and I found it to be super effective in the in-game engine. So if you're someone that's out there using deep line forward, I do suggest you go ahead and use that target forward role instead. But that's the first of 5 roles that we're going to focus on today. But just to let you know, if this Brentford save that I'm using interests you, then I do have that as a rebuild on my channel, which you can find linked in the description down below. So once you finish watching this, if you want to come and support me over there, I massively appreciate it on the road to 50k subs. It's not just Brentford we've rebuilt, we do a different rebuild every single week, all with a different twist and challenge. So if any of that sounds interesting, I think you'd really enjoy the content, so come on over, check it out. But let's get back to role number 2. And this is probably one of the most commonly used roles in all of Football Manager that I'm about to tell you I think there's a better alternative for. So many of you, if you're playing a 3-man midfield, will use a number 6 role basically in your team, and there's plenty of options there, from ball winning midfielder to deep line playmaker, which I see a lot of people use, but the most common one I see in this position is simply defensive midfielder on the defense duty, and that is a very effective role for what many people are wanting from it, and that is to basically screen in front of a defence, sweep up balls, and allow other players to flourish around them. So in theory here, using Astravranks as a defensive midfielder on the defend duty will mean he can kind of screen this area of the pitch, and that will allow the central midfielders to flourish a little bit more and have less defensive responsibility, and it's the one that many people go for, and I'm saying it is a good role, but I think there's one better. If we take a look at Astravranks, he might not be the best example of this, but if you're going to use a defensive midfielder, I think you should be using the alternative of anchor, particularly if you are wanting that kind of player that is going to screen that defence, sweep up balls, and allow everyone else to flourish the way that many people think the defensive midfielder should. Anchor is the one that I think you want to go for. Now, it is a defense-only role. It's not like defensive midfielder where you can have a supporting role that might get up and help the attack. No, the anchor is only available with a defend duty, and as you can see, it's referred to as the water carrier, the guy that's going to very simply take the ball off a defense, give it to the midfield, and do nothing more with it. If you have a defensive midfielder that is very much a defensive attribute player, that's going to be the role that I think you want to use them in, particularly if you want them screening in front of that defense. As you can tell kind of here from this graphic, they're not really going forward at all. They're just sweeping up the ball, giving it to everyone else, and allowing them to flourish with it. They're not going anywhere crazy. They're not moving forward between the lines. They're just sitting in front of the centre-backs and sweeping up. And if you're a team that wants to kind of shut out the opposition, it is a very effective role, and one that I think many people overlook because it's not too flashy and it doesn't get the most out of your players offensively, but defensively, yes, it is certainly the one you want to use. Now again, Astor of Ranks isn't really someone that I would say would be a great anchor, but if you were looking to use someone in that defensive midfield role, I think particularly if they're quite a physical, strong presence, anchor is the one that you want to go for. You'll get some great results out of it, and it's a fantastic role. But just to point out before we move on to role 3, I'm not really going to go into the details of why and exactly what it does, but if you want a defensive midfield role that's going to really flourish in terms of numbers, goals and assists, Segundo Volante, I tell you, it's a role that many people won't even look at because it sounds a little bit too fancy, and as you can see, it's only available in the centre of a 3-player setup. There you go, I've just wiggled the tactic to allow me to actually use a Segundo Volante. You can do it on either the attack or the support duty. It's a mixture of almost a deep line playmaker combined a little bit with almost a box crashy midfielder. It's very interesting how it works in game, and I do suggest if you haven't tried it, give it a go with one of your defensive midfielders and you'll see some very cool results from it. So just to point that out, but yes, the main focus of this is if you are using a defensive midfielder, I would say an anchor would do a much better job for you in what you might be looking for from that screening midfielder in front of a defence. Up next, so we're moving back to the striker position and we're focusing on a role that is very much a specialist role, but I think if you can use it, it is so effective in FM. Now, a while ago, I did a tier list on some of my favourite roles in Football Manager, and the one that I considered the GOAT, the best role in the game, was advanced forward. It's a striking role that many of you will use. It's the most common one. It's a striker that's kind of going to run past the channels, run past the line of the defence, get in behind the defence and score a goal, which in FM this year tends to be effective. Even if you've got a player with only 11 pace, it will still do really well in game. It's the most universal role. Most strikers can fit into it, if not all, and unless they've got like 3 pace basically, they're going to be effective as an advanced forward, and it is a role that will get you a ton of goals. As you can see in this Brentford save, in one season we managed to get Armando Broja as that solo striker, scoring 26 in 36 games as an advanced forward. But for me, there is one role that I think tops it if you have the kind of player that can do the role. Like I say, it is very much a specialised role, and that is the complete forward role on the attack duty. I think if you have a player that suits this role, you should always use it. As you can see, Armando Broja is a great complete forward. He is someone that isn't just quick, he's also strong, decent in the air, and can play with his back to goal as well as breaking that line of the defence with his pace to score. Not many strikers are able to play in that complete forward role, but if you have someone that can do it, playing them as a solo striker on complete forward on the attack duty will get you great results. In a similar sense, if you're playing a front 2, I always like a complete forward on the support, but realistically, most of you will play as a 1-striker system, and if you have advanced forward and the player can play complete forward, go ahead and do it. But as mentioned, not everybody can. If we take a look at a different striker, I mean, Lorenzo Luca is definitely going to be a good complete forward, but Johan Wissa, is he going to be one? You can see maybe not. As great as he is as an advanced forward at his age of 32, he's not going to be a great complete forward. And it is one of those roles where often you can see your striker having a 4-star for advanced forward, but complete forward will be all the way down here because it is such a specialised role that you really need a specific kind of player to do it. Lorenzo Luca, I imagine, will be someone that can do it very well, considering he is Yeah, there you go. Complete forward is actually his best suggested role, but he is a very well-rounded player that isn't just strong, he's also good in the air and quick. Having that combination of all three will get you some top results, and like I say, if you have a player that can do it to a good level, try swapping it for a few games with your advanced forward role, and in no time, I can guarantee you that player will be scoring more than he would have done on the advanced forward duty. Now, of course, as I've said with everything, depending on the tactic and how you want to play, you might actually prefer an advanced forward. You might want someone that can go out there and just focus on breaking the lines, but a complete forward like Lorenzo Luca, if we select it, as you can see, it does say that with the attack duty, he'll lead the line and spearhead attacks, but he'll also create chances for himself and others. And what this means is if you are playing with someone like an inside forward, maybe a shadow striker just playing off the striker, or even an inverted winger getting in to those dangerous areas, if you have a complete forward, he's not just going to focus on getting forward into the channel. When he sees the opportunity arise, if he's smart enough, he'll link up play and allow the likes of Kremeshi to get in behind, or Chanelov here to get into a dangerous area and take a shot at goal. So it is really a great role if you have a player that can do it, to helping your whole team be a cohesive unit and score even more as a whole squad. So it's one of my favourite roles to use if your players can play it. Next though is one where I have to hold my hands up and say that I got this wrong before, because in my tier list of roles that I did a good, half a year ago at this point now, back when we thought FM25 was still coming out, I've always said I rate the box-to-box role to a decent level. It's one that I often use in a midfield 2 or even a midfield 3. It's one that I think is really good for a player with high work rate that can get up and down and crash both boxes, help defensively and help offensively, and it does do that to a good level. But one that I really overlooked in my tier list was Carrilero, which is one that I might be butchering the pronunciation of, but it is a role that is often overlooked in Football Manager, the same way sometimes Roaming Playmaker is, and I must say I put it pretty low in my tier list, having only used it every now and then a couple of years back in FM, and I haven't used it for a long time, but I got flamed in the comments by a load of people saying, you're wrong, Carrilero is a great role, it's a great role, and obviously with everyone saying that, I thought let me try it out again, and with the right kind of player, I think it's better than a box-to-box. Let's just get into why though, because if we have a look at a box-to-box midfielder, as you can see based on the little graphic that we've got going on here and the write-up that we have below it, it is someone that's going to crash into both boxes. You need a dynamic player, someone that's going to work hard for your team. The Carrilero though, one stays a little bit wider, as you can see, it's a guaranteed instruction with the Carrilero, and it kind of moves a little bit differently. The way that a box-to-box would go up and down like this, the Carrilero, as it says in game, is known as the shuttler, and often just kind of moves in between lines, offering a different area of play. Now, is it an exact swap for a box-to-box midfielder stylistically? Maybe not, but I think if you are using a box-to-box and you want a similar effectiveness that might actually be better for you, the Carrilero is one that I think opens up so many windows of opportunity for your team. Now, as it does say, it is good in a midfield diamond, so if you're playing something like this, obviously this system will not work the way that I've got it set out currently. Let's just move these strikers so it looks a little bit more normalized, but you might have here, let's say, the anchor, the base of your defensive midfield. With the box-to-box duty, he's going to be running between areas here, and that's great, but what we won't get is much coverage out wide, which is why when you're playing this kind of system, using something that operates in a wider area, whether that is a Mezzala or potentially in this case a Carrilero, I think is what you want to look for, because it's just going to help you a little bit in covering that space. They're going to find more areas between the lines, and it offers a passing option to break play through. If you're using a tiki-taka system or even a gegenpress system, it is a really useful role to have. Obviously, it requires a specific player. As you can see, some things that you would expect to be highlighted aren't, so you might think strength in a midfielder, pace might be important, but no, it's all about stamina, industry. You're not going to have much goal-scoring opportunity, but if you can tackle, pass, and work hard, it's going to be a great role for a player in your team. It really helps link up play, and I think if you haven't used the Carrilero, you should definitely give it a go. But with that said, we're now moving on to our final role. It's another one in that central midfield area, and it is my favourite role this year in FM. It was at one point one of those I considered good but not great, but in recent times I've had amazing success with it, and it is now a must-use role in any system where I think my team is a little bit dominant. Before we see it though, if you have enjoyed up to this point, smash the like button and subscribe for more. Remember to let me know your favourite role in the comments down below, or any you think that I'm wrong about. But let's get into this final role, and as I've mentioned, you might say in the comments I'm wrong about some of these. I'm not saying in any case though that you can't use these roles. As mentioned, advanced forward is, I think, the most universal and the best role in Football Manager, but if you have someone that can play complete forward, I think it will get you better results, and that goes for kind of all the roles in this team. It all depends on what you want your team to do, but realistically, I think some of these roles are better. Going back though to what we had before, if we go to a 3-man midfield system, if we just slot Lorenzo Luca in here for the sake of it, obviously this team looks terrible right now the way that it's set up, but let's focus on the role that I'm looking at today, and that is this central midfield area, where many people might want a central midfielder who isn't really going to focus on too much defensively. If you do have a deep line playmaker or something like that, it allows a little bit more freedom for someone here to get up, maybe get onto the edge of the box and score some goals. Almost Frank Lampard-esque, not quite box to box, but maybe a lot of people go for this one. Central midfielder on the attack duty, on the support duty. If you haven't played Football Manager very often, it's the one that kind of sticks out as the, oh yeah, central midfielder, that sounds about right for what I'm looking for. And many people go for it on this attack duty with the hope that it's basically going to, yes, link up play and play the way a central midfielder will, but every now and then get onto the edge of the box and hit some strikes into the corner and find space for a goal. But if that's what you're looking for in your team, I think many of you who have experienced FM in recent years will agree with me. Just go for Mezzala. Go for the Mezzala on the attack duty. I don't even need to explain it much more than if you do that, you will get a ton of goals. The amount of times in these rebuilds where I try and change up the tactic a little bit and I have like a box-to-box or a central midfielder and it works well, and then suddenly I swap it to a Mezzala and we win the league, and then that player in that position ends up with 25 goals in a season, even when they're not a great player. It happens way more often than you might think. Now, Naipan is apparently my best Mezzala in this team, and if you have a look, it is his best role. It requires someone that is great on the ball in terms of passing ability, but also can hit a long shot, can finish, can go past a man. It's asking a lot of demands from the player in that position, but if I was to play Naipan as a Mezzala here, I would get some great results. In fact, let me switch to a save where I have used a Mezzala. Here you go, dropping into a Celtic save where, as you can see, we are obviously Celtic and we're dominant, but our third best player in our team this season was Ernie Engels in terms of average match rating, only behind Marmoush and Anthony on the wings, who had great seasons between them, as you can see. But Ernie Engels in that Mezzala role absolutely smashed it. 14 goals in all comps is not, incredible numbers, but it's still pretty good. But when you see his average match ratings in the league alone, he got 18 assists and 8 goals in 35 games from central midfield, and as you can tell, he's been doing it year on year, consistently creating chances and scoring goals with fantastic average match ratings. And this isn't even the perfect system for a Mezzala. As you can see, I've kind of just put it in here because we are such a dominant side that we can use it. But most of the time, if you have a team looking like this and you don't have a number 10, that Mezzala will suddenly find more space and you'll be seeing 20, 25 goals a season from the player in that position. I absolutely love it for a player that you want to get forward and create some shots on goal, score some chances, and really be that goal scorer from midfield that your team might need. But there you go, there's 5 of my favourite roles in FM. Let me know down below how many you're using and your favourite roles, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.